Okay, so we're on Kuf Mem Amud Aleph. Um, so we had mentioned the question. The Gemara had started the question of what is considered merubin, what is considered muwatin, and we said enough. There was a machlekes. Tanakama said we said that the Chachamim say it means that if there's enough to pay for the maintenance of the sons and daughters until they're adults. And there's another Shidduch says for 1 year, but we're going with that it's up to their adulthood. And there's a whole sichsuch in the Rishonim. Once you say that the amount of gedolim of merubin is that amount, so what difference does it make? In the end, you're going to give, in either case, you're going to give the mezainis, you're going to give mezainis to the banas. Now, whatever's left is going to go to the sons, which is what the conclusion was. So, machlekes the Rashbam says the nafkamina will be about if there was enough, and then, as we're going to see in the Gemara in a second, the nafkamina is going to be the next discussion of the Gemara, I think actually we saw it right at the end, that we said if there was merubim v'nismatu, if you say that that it went already to the...
No, that's what we're doing now.
We didn't see that yet?
No.
Okay. So we said, Amar El Amarava, we give the mezainis to the daughters, and the rest goes to the sons. It doesn't mean like the Mishnah seemed to say that the sons get nothing. Of course the sons they get whatever's left over. So it's like I said, the Rishonim have discussions about what's the nafkamin. In the end, the daughters are always getting the mezainis, and the leftover is going to the son. So the Rashbam says the nafkamin is going to be in this next case. Pshita, merubin v'nismatu. Let's say there was enough money. Let's say it was 600 to keep the girls till adulthood, and 600. There was a $1,200 estate, and there's 600 for each of them. V'nismatu, and now it went down. That means that the 600 that we had allocated for the daughters is no longer sufficient to buy them their maintenance. We say kvar zachu behen yarshim. Since the yarshim were already Yerush, the sons were Yerush, they got their inheritance. They don't have to. That's theirs. So, but they can't get what the sons had already yarshim. Masha'enkein, if we would say it's nechasim muatim, that the sons are not yarshining, but they're just getting what's left over, then they didn't yarshin the rest of it. They're just getting it as the leftovers from the daughters. But if it's nismatu, then that will be reduced further in order to pay for the daughters. So that's the way the Rashbam understood the beginning of the explanation of Rava, or what the nafkamina is between merubin and muatin. So again, let me just I'm sort of going around in circles here, because we have to catch up again. So we had said the Mishnah had made a nafkamina between whether it's nechasim or merubin. If there's substantial nechasim, then the sons yarshin, and the daughters get their mezainis. But if there's muatin, then the daughters get mezainis and the sons are left out. The Gemara had already clarified. Obviously, the sons get left out doesn't mean they don't get anything. So we said that the daughters get the mezainis, and the vashar lebanim, the rest goes to the sons, but it's not going to them mitaris yerusha. It's going to them like mitaris mezainis and mitaris. It's left over and it's available for them, but they haven't yarshined it. So therefore, the Gemara is saying it will be a nafkamina where it was originally merubin. It was originally 1,200, and now that 1,200 has gone down in value, and now it's only worth 1,000, which is not sufficient. Really, the half that went to the daughters, the 600 that went to the daughters, is not enough anymore to pay for their mezainis until they're ispagu. So we say, in that case, since it was merubin at the beginning, it retains its din of merubin. The sons already yarshened, they got their 600, and the daughters can have no claim on it since they yarshened it. But on the other hand, had it been less than that, if it was 1100, so he's got 550, which was not enough to pay for the daughter. So the daughters got 600 and the sons got 500. And then later on, the 600 of the daughters reduced in value, and now it's not even enough to pay them for their years till they're Baigeris. We say since the sons did not get their 500 mitaris a Yerusha, but rather they just got it as the shar, what was left over from the daughters' mezainis. So therefore, it will be further reduced. They'll take away from the 500 to make good for the daughters, to add an extra 100 to the daughters. So the daughters will end up getting 700, and the boys will end up getting, 400. That's the way the Rashbam understands what happened in the Gemara. So pshita merubim dismatuk farzachu ban yarshin, like we just said, if it was enough to be treated as gedalim, as merubin, so then the zcharim, the banim, already were yarish. Mu'atim v'nisra. But what if it's the other way around? It wasn't enough for them to get a Yerusha. V'nisrabu. But then later on, the value of the assets went up to where there's enough for both of them to be get full mezainis until godless. Mai. Do we say Mai? B'shus yarshin kaimi helcha b'yarshin shavuach. Do we say since they were the Yerusha was in the rishus of the since the sons lamaisa until they're the ones who are holding on to the assets, and it's coming out of the assets that they're supposed to be Irish to provide mezainis. So we say since now it was nisrabu, so now it becomes a Yerusha in their hands, and therefore they they don't have to. It's treated as a like we said, a Yerusha, and we're not going to. If it goes up, the amount that was given to the daughters got 600 because that's how much they're supposed to get by Nismai. But if that 600 now becomes worth 700, the extra 100 that it's worth goes back to the sons because that's really theirs. They're the ones who are supposed to be Irish, and now it's Nisrabu. It's above the amount. It's considered Nechasim Merubin, so therefore they get it. Oi, Dilma, Saluka Misalka Yarsha Mehacha. Or maybe we say, since this is awarded, it was designated for the daughters, so any increase in value goes to them in spite of the fact, since it was Nechasim Muatim up until now, even though it's gone up in value, since it has a status of Nechasim Muatim, the sons are not Yairish, but rather they're just getting it as leftovers. So therefore they don't have a din that they were Zoich in it, and whatever goes up in value still remains to the daughter. So Gemara Tashma, Gemara is going to be right. The Amr Abasi Amr Yechon. Yisayim shekadmu machru ben chasim muatim. If the sons went ahead, it's like we said, they're the ones holding on to the assets, and but they have an obligation to provide the mezainis for the daughters. But instead of doing that, they sold it. Masha machru machru. What they've sold is sold. So we see from here, it's not a direct application to our din. But the point is, we see that the sons have the stronger hand, even by nechasim muatim, that they are considered to be the ones holding on to it.
What about the money? Whose money? When we say Mashu also means they get to keep the money?
It seems so, yeah. That means the rights to the daughters the rights of the daughter, I think, are from Karka.
So they have to go after the Karka.
I mean, I guess the question is, I don't know what happens to the money. The truth is, maybe they're required to provide the money to the daughters. But the question is, do they even have the status to sell the Karka in the first place, that they're considered owners? The fact that they even have that ability to do so, I don't know how it gets ironed out with the money after that. But maybe they ate it up immediately. Now it's too late to get it back. So the din is that, so we say that they do have the right to sell it. So we see from there that they have the stronger hand, even on Nechasim Muatim, and therefore the din would be, if it was Miyot V'nisraba, the sons will be allowed to retake the extra mezainis from the from the daughters. So we're starting a new question. So, but we're going back to our original Tutstadim, right? That the Mishnah describes two cases, and they have different dinim, whatever the Rishonim come out with it. But there's a different din for nechasim muatim, which the Chacham said is if there's not enough estate to provide for the needs of the boys and the girls until they're gedalim, or merubin, where it's more than that amount. So bo'amine amanasei ma'u shetumat benechasim. What's the din of an almana, right? An almana also is entitled to mezainis. So a man died, and he left over sons and daughters and an almana. So we've been talking about whether it's nechasim or merubin, depending on how much money there is for the upkeep of the sons and daughters. But what if there's also an almana that needs mezainis? Me, I'm reading even the Islam mezaini memata. Do we say since she also is entitled to mezainis? So if there's not enough to pay for both the sons, daughters, and the almana, that's considered muatim. Aydilma, even the ulam minsavale law hashanami lesla. Since an almana is someone who could get married, and her right to mezainis only extends till she gets remarried. It's like like not an alimony. I don't know what it is. It's a maintenance payment until she hitches her wagon to the next gravy train. So, but when she remarries, then she stops getting mezainis. So since that's but we're talking about Yisaimim daughters, even though theoretically they could get married, but it's not mederaisa, so it's not likely to happen. But almana is very likely to remarry. So maybe her rights to mezainis are not counted in determining of whether it's nechasim muatim or merubin.
You think it's not a question of is she getting it? It's just a question of figuring out the equation.
From the beginning, when we make the cheshbon of how to distribute the assets, so whether it's going to be nechasim muatim or merubin, which, like we said, it's a complicated discussion exactly how that affects it. But whatever the impact is, we first have to determine. So in determining that, do we say that the entitlement of the widow is included? So Gemara, intim even the ilu minsava less law. If you'll say that it's not included since she doesn't have such a permanent right to getting mezainis, hashanami less laba. So she also does. So we don't count it for making it nechasim muatim. What about bas ishtoi? Ma'oshen tamayit benechasim. If the daughter, this almana who has a daughter, which we know that they put into the ksuba, that he's going to provide for her for 5 years of mezainis after the husband's death. So that's another entitlement. Maush timap nechasim. This is not dependent. The daughter is not dependent on her remarrying. That's only an almana. She's already, that ruins the relationship with her husband. But a daughter, or even a stepdaughter, it doesn't. You're not going to take away from her because she got married. Even the ilu mesa lesla. But on the other hand, a daughter, in a way, is less permanent than the almana, because almana, if she dies, the right passes along to her yarshim. But the right of a bas that's written to the ksuba to get mezainis, even though that extends, even if she gets married, but doesn't extend to her yarshim. If she dies, it comes to an end. V'loy mata. V'imtim saloymer. And if you'll say, kiven the ilu mesa lesla, since if she dies, it's not going to be included. So therefore, she also, even her, is not going to be considered to be that money is not going to reduce the money needed to determine whether it's merubin or muatim. What if the husband who died, or the father who died, has a balchayv, he owes money? Should that decrease the nechasim in making our determination? Since even if he dies, meaning the Baal Chayiv, even if he dies, his Yarshim can go and say, they can bring out the note and say, you owe the money, you never, regardless. Which is in contrast to the Bas, which we said if she dies, it doesn't go to her Yarshim. Since, as we all know, an entitlement to get a loan, a right to get it to collect a loan is a long way between having a note and actually collecting. So, the person has to actually go to Bezdin and get it away from him. Masha Enkein, the rights of mezainis of a daughter and a wife are much more easily accessible. So do we say kivin the machzik v'ayinal mayit? So that's the three ibayisemis. And some have it the opposite way around, meaning starting from B'choy Ma'ashiman B'nechasim, what is a B'choy B'mayit B'nechasim? And then we would say, if you'll say that it's not B'mayit, what about a Bas Ishtay? And if you'll say even a Bas Ishtay is not, what about Almanosai? Because those are going in reverse order of which is more like Bas Ishtay Ma'ash T'mat B'nechasim, Almanosai Ma'ash T'mat B'nechasim. Okay, so that's the two versions. Zaktumar. Now we're talking about a different question. If there is, we talked about a ben and a bas and how it works when you have a son and a daughter. What happens with the mezainis and who gets the Yerusha? What if there's a daughter who's entitled to get mezainis, and as well as an almano who's entitled to get? So Zaktumar. Amalei zil. He said about all your questions, your first three questions as well as this fourth one, come back tomorrow and I'll answer you. I can answer only the last one. We treat the almana legabe a daughter like a daughter connected the brothers in a chasamuatim, like a daughter legabe the sons in a chasamuatim. Now this is not a tzushtel, a substantive comparison. It's just saying that the result is similar. We're not saying that there's the treatment. We're not saying that there's like a cheshbon that the treatment of a daughter connected her brothers, that ben chasim that she gets hamazainis first. That's the reason why that almana gets before the bas. It's just saying it's going to have the same type of precedence like we see over there, but it's not for this.
So the almana goes first.
What?
So the almana
goes first. It'll be the same result for the almana connected the bas.
So wouldn't that, if that's the case, then the question of are you mamayit but for the almana, right? Wouldn't it seem obvious that you?
So we said the nafkamina is the almana though has
right, but at the same time
drop dead if she remarries. So it's not so certain. Even if she's getting the maintenance payments, it's every month she gets a mint or every week, whatever it is. But it could end. So in determining of whether it's Achnuchas and Merubin, could we anticipate that a year later she's going to get married, and therefore, even though she has precedence, it's not necessarily as substantial as the daughter's, right? No?
I don't know. To me, it's like right now she is, and she's going first. So shouldn't you, practically speaking, she's getting it. So I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's just a little.
Yeah, it's a little counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Right here. Okay, so in our Mishnah, we had said that Admin was not pleased with the Mishnah, where the Mishnah said that if there's nechasim muatim, then the banim chayzer al psachim, they get left in the dust. Because the shvilshani zachar hefsadti, because I'm a zachar, I should lose out. So Gemara is trying to understand what is that cheshbon. So Gemara, my kamar, Abai hakikam, shvilshani zachar, v'roy ani lasik b'torah hefsadti. It's not really a question that saying it's unfair. What's saying is that if a zachar is Isaac b'torah, he should get kadima. So why do you give the daughter before the son? Amalei Rava. You're saying that the only reason why he should come first is because he learns Torah. That means if he's an Amaretz, that he shouldn't get the Yerusha. Obviously, Yerusha is not dependent on being a Talmid Chacham. B'shulshani zocha v'roy ani leirish ben chasim merubim v'sadi ben chasim muatim, and it's not as it sounds. What he's just saying is he's saying a cheshbon. He's saying, listen, if I'm supposed to get Yerusha, a Ben gets before a Bas, why am I coming out on chasim muatim behind you? I can understand you make us even, but how could you make me be behind you if really I'm supposed to get Yerusha first? So that's Admon's svara, which we don't pass on. Like the whole Gemara was going with the other svara that the Banim get after the daughters. Okay, moving on to a different topic in this Mishnah. This is talking about a tumtum, the din of a tumtum. Now, a tumtum is somebody who has a little covering that makes it that you can't see whether a child is a zachar or a nekeva. Zok the Mishnah. Hiniach banim ubanas v'tumtum. Someone died and he left over sons and daughters and a tumtum. Bizman she'nechasim merubin. When the nechasim merubin has charm doichen oisei etzel nekeves, then the zcharim push the tumtum. Obviously the boys get kedima. They have precedence when there's nechasim merubin. So they tell the tumtum, you're not included with us. You have to be with the girls. Nechasim muatim, if there's nechasim muatim where the girls have precedence, the mezainis comes first. Hanekev is doichas oyetzal zcharim. They push him to this charim. We're going to see exactly. This Gemara is going to have two pshatim. Amachak Zabai and Rava, what that means. Ha'aymerim tailored ishti zachar yitol man. If someone said, if my wife gives birth to a zachar, she should get a mana, 100. Yalda zachar yitol man. If she has a zachar, that child is zaycha to a mana. Be'im nekeva masayim. And if he said, if it's in a keva, if he said, if my wife has an nekeva and she gets 200, yalda nekeva and I tell some sign. The nekeva gets 200. Im zachar mana im nekeva masayim. If he said, this person obviously wanted to have a daughter, so he said both. He said, if it's a zachar, then she gets a mana. The child gets a mana. He gets a mana. If it's in a keva, she gets masayim. So he preferred a daughter. B'yalda zachar, and he gave birth to a zachar, unekeva, or he gave birth to a nekeva, then zachar neitel mana, nekeva neitel is masayim. The zachar gets a mana, and then or if it's a zachar, he gets a mana, and the nekeva gets a masayim. The Rashbam says it can't be talking about where he had both, even though the Mishnah sounds like it's talking about where he had both, because from the fact that he said zachar mana im nekeva masayim, he's not contemplating twins, so he never gave away anything in the case of twins.
Yo,
Rashbam.
you have mysteries for me and you, multiples. It happens.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a mystery. I mean, we found out about 3 months in. Yeah. So it's definitely a life-changing feeling when they say, "Oh, there's a second one. Hold on. Oh, there's a third one." Watching my wife turn green. It was our first, It's quite like what are you smiling about? I thought it was very funny. Anyway, yeah. Yalda tumtum, in this case, if he said if it's in Zachar, I give 100, and if it's in the Keva, I give 200, ain't a noitel. Doesn't get anything at all. This is good. This is clearly representing the shita that a tumtum is not either a Zachar or a Nekeva. Right? He's saying, I said a Zachar gets this amount, and the Nekeva gets that amount. If you say it's a suffix, so then you should get at least 100. And then when you find out, you give it whatever it was supposed to be. But we're saying ain't a neitel at all. Vice the tumtum is not, which is we're gonna have a machlekes. Is that the Tanakama being chaylik on this or not? Im Amar kol ma she'teiled ishti yitol, is a yitol. But if he said whatever my wife gives birth to take, let's say $100, then even the tumtum takes that because he's included in anything. Certainly, he definitely exists. Bim ein sham yirish elohu yirish hakol. If someone has only a tumtum and then he dies, even if you say that a tumtum is neither a zachar or nekeva, but he's definitely a child, and we know a child comes first, either whether it's a son, the son comes first, then the daughter, but a tumtum definitely is a child, so he'll get in the absence of either sons or daughters. We say we push him aside. The Tanakama of the Mishnah said, we push him to the side, and the tumtum, and the mashmais is that he gets like a daughter, as opposed to Eitzel Nekebus. and therefore he gets like a daughter. Meaning, in the case where it's Bisman Shenachasam Reuben, he gets the lesser amount. Haktani Seifa. Why are we saying he gets the lesser amount like in a keva? And the Seifa says Yaldu Tumtum Ein Noitel. A Tumtum is not either a Zachor or a keva. He won't get either, even as in a keva. Why was the Tanakama sounding like the beginning of the Mishnah is sounding like that he gets like an akeva, the Tumtum gets like an akeva, but if we say he's neither a Zachor nor a keva, he shouldn't get anything at all. When it says it means he doesn't get any ace on the kevis. The Zcharim say, you're not one of us. You go to the kevis, but the kevis will say, you're not one of us either, and he's going to get nothing. So both the Tanakama, both the beginning of the Mishnah and the end, are saying that a Tumtum is not treated as a Zachor and a Kev. Rava says you push him, and he's treated like a Nekeva. The Sefer Etan Rav Shimon Gamliel, he'll understand, Rava will understand that it's two Shitas, Tanakam and Rav Shimon Gamliel. The Tanya, Yolda Tumtum Vandroginus, if someone gave birth to this is talking about someone who had a behema that was a cow, let's say, that was Mubaris. It's about to give birth to their first child. And he says, listen, if it's going to be a Bachar, I'm not going to get anything out of it. It's going to go to, I have to give it to a Kayan. So I have an idea. I'll be Makdish. I owe an Oila to the Beis HaMikdash. I'll be Makdish this animal as an Oila. So the problem is, what happened if he gave birth to a Tumtum? So a Tumtum, if it's a Tumtum is not going to be considered, if it's not considered to be a either a Zachor or a Nekeva, so it's not going to be kosher to be a if he's saying if it's a Zachor, it should be an Oila, but if it turns out a Tumtum, it's not a Zachor. It could be it's neither. So Reb Shmuel ain't kedusha chal alein. The kedusha is not chal, and therefore it's not going to be a bechar since it's tumtum, and it's not going to be an oila, and nothing happened, and it just remains a tumtum of chal. So you see, Reb Shimon Gamliel holds it's neither a zach nor a kev. Meisvei tumtum yerish keben v'nizin kabas. In fact, the Gemara that we see in a brayz, it says a tumtum yarshin's like a son, and he's also I keep saying he. A tumtum is yerish like a son, and he's nizan, he's paid, he gets maintenance payments like a daughter. So Bishlam Rava, according to Rava, that says that it's a machloikis between the Tanakama. The Tanakama says, and we're going like the Tanakama. Tanakama says that it's a suffix. And when we say Deichen Eitzel in a Keva, it means he gets like in a Keva, Yerish Kebem ben Nechasim Muatim. If it's Nechasim Muatim, then he gets treated like a Ben because the daughters can push him away. Benizan Kabas ben Nechasim Merubin. That's why Rav understood the beginning of our Mishnah. El Abaya my Nizan Kabas. According to Abaya, that says it's not treated like a daughter. How could you say he's Nizan Kabas? Even if it's Nechasim Merubin, he doesn't get, a Tumtum doesn't get Nizan Kabas. He's not a daughter either. In fact, the Rava my Yerish Kaben. Said Gemara says, what do you mean? Even according to Rava, it says it's Nizan Kabas and Yerish Kaben. How could you say that when Tumtum Yerish Kaben, he's not Yerish Kaben. A Ben is not Yerish if it's Nechasim Muatim. A Yerish, he's not Yerish Kaben. It means he's pushed away like a Ben. That a Ben is not Yerish. He just gets whatever's left over. So what are you using the lashon Yerish? Ela royal Yerish ve'enlay. Elamai, what does it mean? He's not Yerish like a son. So Al-Chanami royal laws and ve'enlay. So you could say the same explanation in Rashi when it says it's Nizan Kabas. It doesn't mean that the Tumtum gets the bizarreness like a daughter, but since he's not actually a daughter, he gets pushed away from the Yerusha as a Ben, and he gets Nizan Kabas, but he doesn't actually get it because he's not a Bas either.
So what does it mean by Lewish? He actually doesn't. I mean, it sounds like lawyer talk.
It's very similar to the way, but in the end, that's really the way. You have to make that same explanation according to Rava in the first part of the Mishnah.
Only if there's no other kids around.
It means like Doichanoy Eitzel in the Kevis. You're pushed away. He's Yerush like a Ben. Doesn't mean he's Yerush. It doesn't when he's Nizak Bas doesn't mean Nizak. It means he's treated as the Bas, the Gabi, the Ben. But then when it goes to the bottom, he doesn't get as a Bas. He doesn't get that either. Just like we said in the Mishnah. Okay, I think we'll stop over here. the rest of
8:40 tomorrow morning?
8:40 tomorrow morning. Thank you so
All right.
much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Good
I
night.
think next week, Bez Hashem, I'm going to go back to right after Havdalah.
Okay, shukran.
Have a good night.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.